Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life, as always. Wanted to get back on today. I did a video last night where I mentioned the economic substance doctrine, and I wanted to go into a little bit more detail on that because this is a one of the cruxes of their entire system, because we know that whenever any of us go to court for any particular reason, they're seeking some kind of economic substance, and that economic substance is in regards to transactions, and that's transactions. We'll get into this here in a minute, and that's plural for all of the events that have been conducted throughout your entire life on the presumption that it's been done for trade or business. And so we're going to get started. First, if you look at the text above this video here, you'll see I've got the economic substance doctrine, and like I said, I did the video yesterday in regards to certification leading to the subsequent driver's license is false. When we register these automobiles, the certification itself is false because it doesn't get finalized with the proper statement under penalty of perjury that your intent is to use it for trade or business, at least 50% of its use. Without that, then the certification is false. It hasn't been finalized. The lease isn't true. It isn't valid. And so when we think about the economic substance doctrine, it says here, and I give the source on it, this is Title 26 of the United States Code. And if you're familiar with the Title 26, that's the tax code. And the tax code is in reference to anything of economic substance, period. It applies to all transactions regarding economic substance. That's what they tax, is economic substance. And when we talk about economic substance, we talk about something in a transaction where one side gains or loses, suffers a gain or loss. That's an economic substance. What is not right about that? It's not a fair and equal exchange, then, is it? It's not an agreement between two parties of an equal exchange. In economic substance, it clearly states that there's a gain or loss. There's a transaction with gains or losses. That's economic substance. So we're going to get into this. Title 26 of the United States Code, Section 7701, at Section O, subsection 5. And it says, economic substance doctrine, definitions and special rules for purposes of this section. A, economic substance doctrine. The term economic substance doctrine means the common law doctrine under which tax benefits under subtitle A, tax benefits with respect to a transaction, are not allowable if the transaction does not have economic substance or lacks a business purpose. Okay? B, exception for personal transactions of individuals. In the case of an individual, paragraph 1 shall apply only to transactions entered into in connection with a trade or business or an activity engaged in for the production of income. C, determination of application of doctrine not affected. The determination of whether the economic substance doctrine is relevant to a transaction shall be made in the same manner as if this subsection had never been enacted. D, get this. This is the last part. Transaction. The term transaction includes a series of transactions. So what they're saying here, if you look at the wording, it says includes. And when they use the word includes, it includes everything thereafter. And if they don't use the word exclude, excluding other things, then that's all it pertains to. It includes a series of transactions and nothing else. In other words, what they're saying is a transaction is a series of transactions. Okay? So when you're born, your mom fills out this paperwork. That's a transaction. And for the rest of your life, a series of transactions goes along. And it's considered a transaction. Until you, of course, step up and correct the record. Okay. So we've discussed tax benefits, transaction, trade or business, production of income. And these are all things, like I said, that the economic substance doctrine determines. And like I said, they mention common law. So nobody can sit there and say that common law doesn't exist. They mention it right in their own codes. And they mention it in regards to being subjected to it. They know that the common law has a superior jurisdiction. And so they have to admit, and this is where they admit it, economic substance doctrine. And they use specific terms in here that you need to research. And one of those terms we're going to research is the next one, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, trade or business. And this is very important in regards to the driver's license, because like I said, when you file that, when you do the certification or registration, you get your certificate of title, and then go and get a driver's license, if you haven't filed a statement under penalty of perjury stating your intent to use that licensure at least 50, or use the motor vehicle at least 50% of its use for trade or business, then the certification is false. So let's look at trade or business and see. This is real simple, and this should tell you to quit. Quit. Period. What you're doing is committing fraud. You're committing RICO offenses. Okay, understand this. Comprehend this. Trade or business. At 26 U.S.C., again, Title 26 of the United States Code, Tax Code, Section 7701A, subsection 26. And it says, trade or business. The term, and it's a very simple definition. The term, and it says term, trade or business includes, and again, it uses the word includes, and everything after that is what's included. If there's nothing else, then it includes nothing else. If it excludes nothing, it excludes nothing else, and it only pertains to this. The term trade or business includes the performance of the functions of a public office. Pure and simple. So if you're not, if you're going to get a driver license, you're doing so to perform the functions of a public office. That's a driver license. Now, if you get a commercial driver license, then you're contracting with that public office to help it perform its functions of public office in distributing what it needs to be distributed from point A to point B. And therefore, you need a commercial driver's license. Whereas those that are just performing the functions of public office as public servants are required to have a driver license as a resident. A resident driver. When they say driver license, without the CDL, it's just DL, driver license, that's in reference to. And that's another very important word, reference. It refers to a resident driver license without explaining it. So we have to clarify this stuff. A driver license is a resident driver license, which is different than a commercial driver license. A resident driver license is for one of a public official who is performing the function of a public office. A commercial driver license is one who is contracted with that public office to help perform those functions of public office by contracting out distribution services. That's it. Those are the only people that are required to have any kind of driver license. If you're not in the performance of that public office or in contract with somebody in a public office, then you yourself are not required to have a driver license, period, ever. And anytime you are, you're required to have a statement under penalty of perjury stating so. And if you're performing a function of a public office, you better be contracted with them or have an oath of office with a pledge of allegiance to that office with a bond. If you don't have that stuff, then you're not qualified, and therefore the statement would be false, and therefore the certification would be false, and therefore you would not be allowed by law in order to do that. It's the perfect rebuttal to their presumption. This is all you have to do, and stand on it and point it out to them. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They printed it. All public acts and deeds shall be recorded. This has been recorded for their public acts and deeds. Now, whether they record something and say this is how the public needs to act, or the public acted in a certain way and then they recorded it, either way, all public acts and deeds shall be recorded. This is the recording of the functions of public office. This is what's telling you how their public offices function. So now let's go on to the next one, and this is what's in regards to the transaction that we read in the first one on economic substance, where it says transaction includes a series of transactions. And we're going to read non-recognition transaction. When we see non-recognition transaction, and again, this is in Title 26 of the United States Code. Let me get here. I'm having to work with two devices. Thank God I've got two devices to work with now. Thank you to my brother Larry. Okay, non-recognition transaction means any disposition of property in a transaction in which, get this, gain or loss is not recognized in whole or in part for purposes of subtitle A. So when we go back up here to subtitle A, which is the economic substance doctrine, we're talking about trade or business, and we're talking about multiple transactions in which a gain or loss is not recognized. So again, if you're performing barter transactions with individuals that have no third party intervening, then that is a non-recognized transaction. And this is what we need to start doing on a grander scale so we can get these people to comprehend we don't recognize your transaction. How's that for using anything you say against you? Huh? I don't recognize your transaction. Your transaction is a series of transactions over a period of time. I made one transaction with this man here for an even trade. No gain, no loss. We decided it was an even, equal exchange. So, remember this stuff, people. In regards to my video last night, we're going to read this statement. Statement under penalty of perjury required for motor vehicle operator leases. That statement includes as the very end that you're doing it for trade or business. So again, if you're not doing this stuff as a government, as an agent for a government office of some sort, whether it be as a public officer or in contract with that public office, then you are not required. And there is no way that they can prove that you are, because they prove right here that you're not. A motor vehicle operator lease requirement is a statement under penalty of perjury, which includes the very last part of that statement, saying that you intend to use it for trade, or business. And that term applies only to public offices in regards to employment of public officers or contracting with outside agents as distributors. Period. Period. So anyway, I hope you guys comprehend this stuff and are catching on. I'm going to pop back on here when I get done here, and we're going to do a little video on showing people how to read these codes. We've got some confusion in some of these codes, particularly in this code, section 7701 of the U.S. IRS code, which is part of the U.S. Federal Code. It's very long. It's a very long section, and so they've got different columns as you get deeper into the section, and people have a hard time finding this particular section because they don't know how to set it up in columns in regards to sections, subsections, subpart sections, and all that. So I'll pop back on here in a little bit, and we're going to do another educational video on researching these codes. Give me a chance and I'll be back on. In the meantime, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless y'all. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.